We ready? Today we're reading Hershel and the Hanukkah Goblins. Now this book is a little scary, so if you don't like scary books, you might not want to listen to me read this one because it has goblins in it. But it's a really good book, so if you're not too afraid, you may want to listen. It was the first night of Hanukkah. Hershel of Ostropol was walking down the road. He was tired and hungry. Nonetheless, his step was light. Soon he would reach the next village where bright candles, merry songs, and platters piled high with tasty potato latkes awaited him. But when he arrived, the village was silent and dark. Not a single Hanukkah candle could be seen. And here you can see Hershel, and he's walking through the snow, and there's the village in the distance. No goblins yet. Isn't tonight the first night of Hanukkah? Hershel asked the villagers. We don't have Hanukkah, Hershel, one of them answered sadly. No Hanukkah? How can that be? It's because of the goblins. They haunt the old synagogue at the top of the hill. They hate Hanukkah. Whenever we try to light a menorah, the goblins blow out the candles. They break our dreidels. They throw our potato latkes on the floor. Those wicked goblins make our lives miserable all year long. But on Hanukkah, it's really bad. Hershel knew he must help the village people. I'm not afraid of goblins, he said. Tell me how to get rid of them. It's not as easy as you think, the rabbi warned. You must spend 8 nights in the old synagogue. The Hanukkah candles must be lit each night. And on the 8th night, the king of the goblins must light them himself. That is the only way, Hershel, that you can break their power. I'm not afraid, Rabbi, Hershel said. If I can outwit a few goblins, then my name is not Hershel of Ostropol. And there you can see, there's the rabbi talking to Hershel with all of the village people out in the cold standing there listening. And they're all afraid of the goblins. You're not afraid, are you? The villagers wished Hershel good luck. They had no potato latkes to give him, so they packed several hard-boiled eggs for him to eat, along with a big jar of pickles. The rabbi gave Hershel a brass menorah, a package of candles, and a box of matches. Then the villagers said goodbye. Nobody ever expected to see Hershel again. It was long past sundown by the time Hershel climbed to the top of the hill, where the old synagogue stood. The crumbling building was gloomy and dark, and rusty hinges squealed as Hershel opened the door. Hershel shuddered. Well, he believed that goblins could actually live here. He put 2 candles in the menorah, and he set them on the windowsill. He struck a match and lit the shamus candle. He said the blessing and was about to light the other candle when he heard a voice. Hey, what are you doing? Hershel turned around. Here was a goblin no bigger than a horsefly, with a long pointy tail and 2 little bat wings. It was hovering in the air. Why, I'm lighting the Hanukkah candles, Hershel said. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. And you can see, here is the synagogue, and you can see that Hershel has lit a candle, and down where it's really dark and quiet is the village. Oh no. We don't allow Hanukkah around here. Is that so? Said Hershel. Who's going to stop me? A little pipsqueak like you? I may be little, but I'm strong, said the goblin. Really? Can you crush rocks in your hand? asked Hershel. And the goblin laughed. Crush rocks? You're joking. Nobody's that strong. I am. Watch. And Hershel took out a hard-boiled egg from his pocket, and he squeezed it until the yolk and the white ran through his fingers. That's how hard I'm going to squeeze you if you try to stop me from lighting these candles. The little goblin's eyes opened wide, since the dim light made the egg look exactly like a rock. The little goblin shook with fear. "You leave me alone," he squeaked. "Gladly," said Hershel, "if you let me light my candles in peace." "Oh, all right," said the goblin. "One night won't make a difference, but you better not be here tomorrow. Big, scary goblins are coming, much bigger than I. If they catch you lighting the Hanukkah candles, why, you'll be sorry." "Huh, we'll see about that," Hershel said to himself, and he lit the first candle. Are we ready to see the first goblin? Yeah, I know. This one's not too scary. I still don't think I'd like to meet him. On the second night, another goblin appeared. This one was big and fat, and waddled like a goose. Hershel was finishing his dinner of pickles and hard-boiled eggs. "Have some pickles," he said to the goblin. "Pickles? Here, catch." Hershel tossed him a sour pickle. The goblin caught it in his mouth, and he swallowed it whole. Pickles are good. Do you like them? I have plenty in this jar." "Take all you want," Hershel said. The greedy goblin grabbed as many pickles as his claws could hold. He reached in and grabbed them. But when he tried to pull his fist out of the jar, he couldn't. It was stuck. "I'm stuck," the goblin shouted. "You put a spell on this jar to hold me fast." "Well, that's right," Hershel said, laughing. "And it's a very, very powerful spell. You came here tonight to stop me from lighting Hanukkah candles, so now I'm going to light them while you stand with your hand in that jar and watch me. How do you like that?" "No! No!" the goblin screamed. "I hate Hanukkah." All right, here comes the next goblin, and there he is. A fat, ugly goblin that likes pickles. Again, not too scary. I still don't want to meet him. Too bad," said Hershel. "You'll have to get used to it." Hershel then said the blessings and lit the candles slowly. He then sang all of his favorite Hanukkah songs. Oh, the goblin wailed and carried on so much that Hershel finally decided to let him go. "Shall I tell you how to break the spell?" Yes! I can't stand it anymore." Hershel looked at him and said, "Let go of the pickles. Your greed is the only spell holding you prisoner." Well, the goblin let go of the pickles. And all of a sudden, his hand slipped out of the jar easily. Oh, the goblin was angry, and he raged, and he shouted, and he yelled, and he shook with his hand in that pickle jar. Oh, he was mad. He stood there while Hershel had lit the Hanukkah candles under his own very nose. That furious goblin stamped his foot so hard that he shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, and the wind blew him away. And here he is getting so angry and upset with his hand in the pickle jar. And he stomped and he shouted, and here are the pieces of the goblin just floating away in the wind. Hershel has been there for 2 nights. Oh no, this goblin, I don't know about this one. The 3rd night came. Hershel felt something watching him as he set the candles in the menorah. Instead of lighting them, he began playing with the dreidel. An hour passed. Hershel looked up. Sitting across the table was another goblin. This one had a fiery red face with two enormous horns. It's getting late, the goblin said. When are you going to light the candles? Oh, later, said Hershel. There's plenty of time for that. As Hershel started to spin the dreidel. This is far more fun than lighting the candles. What are you playing with? The goblin asked. It looks like a top. Why, it's a dreidel, said Hershel. Don't you know about dreidels? No. Oh, too bad, said Hershel. Dreidels are lots of fun. You can also make lots of money if you know how to play. Money? Really? The goblin was interested now. All goblins, whether you knew it or not, like money. This one was no exception. How do you play? It's very simple, Hershel said. But you must have gold. That's the first rule. Oh, I have plenty of gold. Is this enough? And the goblin poured a pile of gold coins onto the table. Are we ready to see this ugly one? All right, get ready. Here he is. This is the ugliest goblin by far. And if you look, there are even little goblin faces and noses on his nose. So I understand if you don't want to watch anymore. Just close your eyes. Oh, that's fine, said Hershel. Listen carefully now. This is shin. If it comes up, you give me a handful of gold. This letter is hay. If it comes up, you give me half your gold. This is Kimmel. If the dreidel falls on this letter, you give me all your gold. Understand? Wait. Said the goblin. There's one letter left. What about this one? Oh, Hershel said. That's none. If the dreidel falls on none, I don't give you anything. Ready? Let's play. You go first. The goblin spun the dreidel. The little top whirled round and round and round, and when it fell, the letter on top was shin. Too bad, said Hershel, taking a big handful of the goblin's gold. Try again. Maybe you'll have better luck. The goblin spun the dreidel once more. This time it fell on hay. This isn't your night, said Hershel, helping himself to half of the goblin's gold. One more time. Your luck is bound to improve. Once again the goblin spun the dreidel. This time it landed on Kimmel. Too bad, Hershel sighed as he took the rest of the goblin's gold. Oh! Would you like me to spin now? Said Hershel. And here you can see the goblin is playing with Hershel. And the goblin is not happy. He's losing all of his gold while playing this game. And while goblins like gold, they don't like to give it away. Yes, it's your turn, the goblin grumbled. He was very unhappy about losing his money. See, I told you so. Hershel spun the dreidel. This time the letter none was on top. Oh my, I don't give you anything. I get to keep all the gold. Say, that was fun. Why don't you get some more gold and we'll play again? Well, what about the Hanukkah candles? Don't you need to light them? Well, we'll light them later. There's plenty of time. Not for me, the goblin said. I'm leaving. I don't like this game. I don't like Hanukkah. And I don't like you. Oh, don't go, Hershel pleaded. I know lots more games. Stay a while. We'll have fun. Goodbye. The goblin spread his wings, swooped out the door, and flew off into the night. Hershel lit the candles all by himself. And you can see how big that goblin really was as he flew out the door. He wasn't happy at all that he was leaving his gold on that table. And Hershel didn't really care about the gold. He just wanted to light the candles. Well, on the following night, other goblins came. Why, one goblin had 6 heads. One had 3 eyes. All were terrible and fierce. They growled and roared and changed themselves into all sorts of horrible shapes. They tried to stop Hershel from lighting the Hanukkah candles, but each night Hershel fooled them all. Finally, the 7th night had arrived. 8 tiny candles flickered on the windowsill. Hershel sat back to enjoy their light. Where were the goblins? Had they finally given up? Hershel felt very sleepy. His eyes closed. And you can see these are all of the goblins that Hershel has faced. There's 3 eyes and 3 heads, and oh, this one's ugly, and that one's ugly. Oh, they're all over. And Hershel beat each and every one of them. And on the 7th night, Hershel was just resting. And as he closed his eyes and started to fall asleep, suddenly he sat up and he heard a horrible sound. A voice that sounded like the cracking of bones. Happy Hanukkah, Hershel of Ostropol. Who's there? Who is it? Don't you know who I am, Hershel? Weren't you expecting the king of the goblins? The voice rose to a hurricane roar. It ripped the shingles from the synagogue roof and shattered the windows. The Hanukkah candles reeled in their savage blast, but they did not go out. You're too early, Hershel shrieked. You're not supposed to come until tomorrow. The great wind died down. Oh, don't worry, Hershel. I'm far away, but I have the power to see you and to speak to you. Enjoy this Hanukkah evening, my friend. It will be your last. Tomorrow night, I will come for you. You fooled my other goblins. Let's see if you can fool me. Poor Hershel. What was he to do? The king of the goblins was on his way, and no power on earth could stop him. Unless... Now, Hershel had an idea. It was a big chance, but he had to take it. It was the only way that Hershel could save himself and save Hanukkah. And you can see here's the big gust of wind that broke the window and blew things around, but the candles still stayed lit. Oh, the king of the goblins. I don't think I'd want to see him. Oh. It was the last night of Hanukkah. Hershel set the candles in the menorah, but instead of placing it on the windowsill, he put the menorah and the box of matches on a small table near the door. Then he sat down to wait. Night fell. It grew dark as pitch inside the old gloomy synagogue. Outside, the whole world lay cold and silent. Suddenly, a great gust ripped the synagogue door from its hinges. The whole building shook, and a fearsome voice spoke. Hershel of Ostropol! Did I hear something? It is I, the king of the goblins. Hershel laughed. Oh, don't be silly. You're just one of the boys from the village. You're trying to scare me. I am not a boy. I am the king of the goblins. I'll believe it when I see it. Show yourself to me. Behold, I stand before you. Do you believe me now? Hershel tried not to look. Even in the darkness, he could see the outline of a monstrous shape filling the doorway, a figure too horrible to describe. Hershel pretended not to care. And there is the king of the goblins, standing in the doorway. It's too dark. I can't see anything, said Hershel. A candlestick and some matches are over there by the doorway. Why don't you light a few candles? Then I can see who you really are. Indeed, you shall, and you shall be afraid. A match flared. The shaman's candle caught the flame. Hershel's blood turned to water at the awful sight before him, but he did not lose courage. Master of the world, he silently prayed, thou who created the heavens and the earth and the spirits of the air, stand by me now. Then he addressed the goblin. Ah, it's still too dark, said Hershel. What are you afraid of? There are plenty of candles there. Why not light them all so I can see you? A hideous hand all curled up with gnarly nails took the shaman's candle and started to light the other candles one by one. Hershel felt himself growing faint, but he forced himself to look. His eyes grew wider and wider as each candle caught the flame. 6, 7, 8. The king of goblins stood before him now. Hershel, do you know who I am? I know you're not the Easter Bunny, said Hershel. Ha! Very funny. Enjoy the joke. It will be your last. And you can see the king of the goblins standing before Hershel. Oh, said Hershel, that's what you think. Be gone, or I'll take a stick to you. How dare you speak to the king of the goblins that way? Oh, said Hershel, I'll speak to you any way I please. You have no power. Your spell is broken. See, the menorah is lit. You thought those were ordinary candles you were lighting. They weren't. They were Hanukkah candles, and you lit them yourself. The king of goblins roared with fury. The earth trembled, and a mighty wind arose. It ripped off the synagogue's roof and blew down the walls. It splintered the great timbers and scattered them like matchsticks. Around the menorah the whirlwind howled, but the candles never flickered. They burned with clear, steady flames. The king of the goblins had no power over them. The spirit of Hanukkah had triumphed. And you can see, look at everything just flying around. The great wind vanished as suddenly it has risen. Hershel rubbed his eyes. The night was as still as before, even though the synagogue was gone. Walls, floor, roof, even the foundation stone had all vanished. But the menorah remained standing tall upon the little table where Hershel had placed it. Hershel waited until the last candle burned out. Then he started down the road that led to the village. He thought to himself, I'd better hurry. I don't want to miss the last night of Hanukkah. But there was no reason to worry. In every window in the village, there stood a menorah with 9 gleaming candles to light the way. The whole village was waiting for him. And you can see, now all the village is lit up. And there's Hershel standing there with the menorah lit where the synagogue was. Hershel had beaten the goblins. The end.